My name is Jack Porter, and I'm just a regular guy in a regular cubicle at a regular tech company in Chicago. My life's ambition is also pretty regular. Clock out at 5, enjoy my weekends, and maybe get rich without anyone noticing. But there's one thing about my job that isn't regular. Our CEO, Ava Sterling. She's the stuff of legends. 28 years old, took a company on the verge of bankruptcy and turned it into a top 3 player in the industry. People in the business call her a genius, the ice queen of the C-suite. They say no one's ever seen her smile. I have. It happened this morning during our weekly sync. The director of marketing, a guy who sweats enthusiasm, was clicking through his quarterly PowerPoint presentation with the energy of a televangelist. And so, in conclusion, our user growth last quarter reached a staggering 15%. This is a milestone victory. A smattering of polite applause echoed through the conference room. I was in my usual corner seat, clapping listlessly and hiding a yawn. My internal monologue, however, was on fire. 15%? Wow, hold the parade. My buddy Dave's sourdough starter has a better growth rate than that. A milestone? More like a tombstone. For our quarterly bonuses. Out of the corner of my eye, I glanced at Ava, sitting at the head of the table. She was lifting a porcelain coffee cup to her lips, but her hand froze halfway. And look at this PowerPoint. Red text on a green background. It's like Christmas threw up on my retinas. This isn't just bad taste. It's a war crime against graphic design. I swear this guy was a colorblind parrot in a past life. It's the only explanation for this aesthetic. Puff. The sound was barely audible. I looked up. Ava had snapped her hand over her mouth, her shoulders trembling almost imperceptibly. She ducked her head, pretending to sip her coffee, but the cup was rattling so hard the coffee was about to stage a jailbreak. The room fell dead silent. Everyone stared in quiet terror at their notoriously stoic CEO. The marketing director's face went pale. Ms. Sterling, is something wrong with the presentation? He stammered. Ava cleared her throat, set the cup down, and her face reverted to its default setting. Ice. No. Continue. Her voice was as cool as ever, but if you listened closely, you could hear a tightly wound spring of tension in it. I lowered my gaze, and my inner commentary resumed. Holy crap, I thought she was going to fire him on the spot. Then again, if I had to look at a slide deck this ugly, I'd probably have a seizure. Man, being a CEO must be rough. You have to sit through this kind of assault on the senses every day and pretend you're impressed. If it were me, I'd have flipped the table by now. I felt a pair of eyes on me. I glanced up and met Ava Sterling's gaze. It was a complicated look, not her usual detached appraisal. It was curious. And was that suppressed laughter? I had to be losing my mind. I quickly buried my head in a document, feigning intense focus. Why is she looking at me? Did I spill something on my shirt? No, I checked this morning. Did she figure out I'm mentally checked out? Impossible. My performance of engaged employee is flawless. I'm a Meryl Streep of corporate drones. The corner of Ava Sterling's mouth seemed to, just for a fraction of a second, twitch upward. Then she snapped her head toward the window. I rubbed my eyes. Too many late nights. I was definitely starting to see things. After the meeting, I slipped back to my cubicle, ready to commence my day's primary objective, milking the clock. I fired up my computer and brewed a cup of some fancy herbal tea. Ah, the elixir of life for the modern wage slave. I may only be 25, but my soul is a weary 65. But it's fine. As long as I slack off faster than they can pile on work, the machine can't grind me down. I was savoring a sip of my tea when a shadow fell over my desk. I looked up. It was my direct manager, Mark. He was wearing his signature smile, the one that never quite reached his eyes. Hey, Jack. Got a minute? Here we go. The wolf in sheep's clothing. Every time he smiles like that, I know I'm screwed. Last time, I ended up pulling an all-nighter for 3 days straight to finish his presentation. The time before that, I took the fall for a project he screwed up. What fresh hell is it this time? I stood up, putting on my best eager beaver face. Hey, Mark, I was just about to send you an update. I'm making some real headway on the West Loop project proposal. Mark nodded, satisfied. Great. Good to see that drive. Listen, it's my wife's birthday today, so I need to sneak out a little early. You know that market analysis report Ava wanted out of the blue. He dropped a stack of papers on my desk that was thick enough to stop a bullet. You gotta be kidding me. Your wife's birthday is not my problem. My 5 o'clock deadline, however, is very much my problem. And Ava wanted it out of the blue. I'm calling bull. This was due yesterday. You procrastinated, and now you want me to clean up your mess? Not a chance. My inner self had already body slammed Mark through a table, but on the outside, I was still the model employee. I put on a troubled expression. Gee, Mark, I don't know. This West Loop proposal is on a pretty tight deadline. Ah, don't worry about that. We can push it to tomorrow. This report, though, Ava specifically asked for it. Needs to be on her desk by the end of the day. Come on, Jack. This is a huge opportunity for you to get some FaceTime with the big boss. I'm handing it to you on a silver platter. He clapped me on the shoulder, his voice dripping with false sincerity. An opportunity? You mean an opportunity for me to do all the work while you take all the credit? Thanks, but no thanks. Once this is done, it'll be your name on the cover, and if anything's wrong, it'll be my head on the chopping block. Dream on. I was mentally scrambling for a polite way to refuse when the main office door swung open. Ava Sterling walked in. She was wearing a razor-sharp black pantsuit, her long hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail. She moved like a drawn sword, her presence instantly sucking all the air out of the room. The only sound was the clatter of keyboards. She walked directly toward my section. Mark immediately hunched over like a question mark. Ms. Sterling, what brings you out to the floor? Ava didn't even look at him. Her eyes landed on the thick stack of files on my desk. What's this? Oh, that's the market analysis report you wanted, Ms. Sterling. I was just getting Jack started on it, Mark said, practically tripping over himself to answer. I scoffed internally. Wow, he's quick to steal the credit. What does this report have to do with me? This is your mess, buddy. Ava picked up the file, flipped through a couple of pages, then fixed Mark with a look so cold it could cause frostbite. I asked for this yesterday morning. You're just starting it now. Beads of sweat popped up on Mark's forehead. No, not exactly. The data is highly complex. We've been double-checking all the metrics. Lie. Keep lying. Let's see what you can come up with. Complex data? You haven't even cracked the file open yet, have you? Ava's gaze shifted to me. There was a strange, playful glint in her eyes. Jack, she said, you tell me. I froze. What could I say? That my manager was a lazy snake who pawned off all his work on me? I'd be cleaning out my desk by tomorrow. I had no choice but to take one for the team. The data does require a lot of careful verification, Ms. Sterling. Mark just wanted to ensure the report was 100% accurate. I'm a saint, a bona fide martyr. Here I am, covering for the guy who's actively trying to ruin my evening. But what can you do? You gotta play the game. For the paycheck, for the health insurance. I will endure. Mark shot me a grateful look. Ava, however, acted as if she hadn't heard me. She stared straight at me, her voice cutting through the silence. I'll ask one more time. Whose responsibility was this report? You could have heard a pin drop. I could feel every eye in the office on me. Mark was frantically making faces at me from the side. I took a deep breath, ready to fall on my sword. Fine. I'll take the blame. Consider it my good deed for the decade. It's not the first time I've taken the heat for someone else. As long as they don't dock my pay, they can blame me for the sinking of the Titanic for all I care. Just please, Ms. Sterling, don't touch my bonus. I opened my mouth to speak, but Ava suddenly smiled. It wasn't the suppressed, trembling smile from a meeting. It was faint, but completely genuine. She looked at me, shook her head slightly, and then slammed the file down on Mark's desk with a sharp thwack. Mark, I want this report, completed by you personally, on my desk before you leave today. If it's not there, don't bother coming in tomorrow. She turned and walked away, the clicks of her heels on the polished concrete sounding like war drums. The entire office was stunned. The expression on Mark's face was more garish than his PowerPoint slides. I was just as dumbfounded. What has happened? That's not how this was supposed to go. Did the Ice Queen have a change of heart? She didn't let me take the fall, and she actually called Mark out? Is it opposite day? I snuck a peek as Ava reached the door. She paused for a second and glanced back at me. That look, what did it mean? It was almost like she was saying, You spineless jellyfish. Mark slunk back to his office, clutching the report like it was a live grenade. I could practically hear him cursing my name from here. But I didn't care. A wave of pure, unadulterated satisfaction washed over me. It was better than the first sip of a cold beer on a hot day. The wicked get what they deserve. Ava Sterling is my new hero. She might be a walking, talking freezer, but that was the most badass thing I've ever seen. I think I'm in love. I took a triumphant sip of my herbal tea. It tasted sweeter than usual. That afternoon, I was deeply engrossed in a game of Minesweeper. Suddenly, my desk phone rang. The caller ID read, CEO's office. My stomach dropped. Oh no, is this it? Is she pissed that I didn't fess up this morning? Did she see it as a challenge to her authority? There goes my bonus. It was nice knowing you, sweet Cash. With a sense of impending doom, I picked up the phone. Hello, this is Jack. Come to my office. It was her voice as crisp and detached as ever. I hung up, my legs feeling a bit like jelly. My coworkers shot me sympathetic glances. Good luck, Jack. Be strong, whispered Brenda from the next cubicle. I walked toward the CEO's office like a man on his way to the gallows. The long, lonely walk down the Green Mile. If I don't make it back, someone please remember to water my desk succulent. The door to her office was frosted glass, revealing only a vague silhouette inside. I knocked. Come in. I pushed the door open. Ava was sitting behind a massive desk, her eyes fixed on her monitor. Sunlight streamed in from the floor-to-ceiling windows behind her, casting her in a golden halo. It made her look ethereal and beautiful. And even colder. Ms. Sterling, you wanted to see me? I asked, my voice barely a squeak. She didn't look up, just gestured to the chair opposite her. Sit. I sat. It felt like sitting on a bed of nails. The only sound in the office was the quiet clicking of her keyboard. What's the game plan here? Call me in and then give me the silent treatment? Is this some kind of power move? Because let me tell you, the crushing pressure is way worse than just yelling at me. I will never understand the minds of the corporate elite. After what felt like an eternity, she finally looked up. The West Loop Project. What are your thoughts? I blinked, forcing my brain to switch from panic mode to work mode. Oh, right. That project. I've been looking into it, and I think our initial positioning might be off. We've been focusing on high-end, luxury tenants, but we're ignoring the needs of the young families moving into that neighborhood. I was thinking. I launched into my pitch, the words tumbling out. As I spoke, I noticed Ava's expression was weird. She wasn't looking at me with her usual critical stare. Her eyes seemed to be drifting, and the corner of her mouth was twitching again. What does that face mean? Does she think my idea is idiotic? Is she bored? That can't be right. I spent days perfecting this concept during my downtime. It's brilliant. Is my genius once again being wasted on the uninitiated? I trailed off, asking tentatively, Ms. Sterling, is this not the right direction? Ava snapped back to attention. No, go on. Her expression was back to normal, but something still felt off. I pressed on, my confidence wavering. So I propose we incorporate more family-friendly spaces, maybe a daycare, and bring in some more affordable, mainstream retail brands to target a broader demographic. Ugh, it's like talking to a brick wall. She's clearly not listening. Probably just trying to figure out the most efficient way to cut my salary. Corporate vampires, the lot of them. Approved. I was mid-rant in my head when she spoke. I stopped, sure I'd misheard. I'm sorry. I said, your idea is approved. Ava looked at me, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of approval in her eyes. It's good. Much better than the garbage I get from the marketing department and their ugly PowerPoints. I was floored. She praised me? The Ice Queen actually praised me? The odds of that have to be lower than winning the lottery twice in one day. Am I dreaming? I instinctively pinched my thigh. Ow. Nope. Real. Ava watched me pinch myself, and that ghost of smile returned, quickly suppressed. As of today, you're the lead on this project, she announced. You'll report directly to me. My brain short-circuited. Excuse me? I'm the lead? I'm a professional slacker. You're putting me in charge of a multi-million-dollar project? Do you have me confused with someone who actually wants responsibility? I'm just trying to coast until retirement. The panic was so real it bypassed my filter. Ms. Sterling, I can't. I don't have the experience. I'm not the right person for this. Ava raised an eyebrow. Whether you are or not is my decision to make. She paused, then added in a voice so soft it was almost a whisper, and I think, you'll do just fine. For a second, I could have sworn I saw a flash of pure mischief in her eyes. I floated out of the CEO's office in a daze. My coworkers swarmed me. Jack, you okay? She didn't fire you, did she? I shook my head, still in shock. She, she put me in charge of the West Loop project. A collective gasp went through the cubicle farm. Everyone was staring at me like I'd just sprouted a second head. I had a sinking feeling that my quiet life of peaceful slacking was officially over. From that day on, my world was turned upside down. I was no longer the guy who could stroll in at 8:59 and be out the door at 5:01. I was Jack Porter, project lead, with a direct line to the big boss. Every day, I had to march into her office and present my brilliant ideas. And Ava, in turn, got stranger and stranger. One day, for instance, I was giving her a project update while internally complaining about the cafeteria food. Today's chili is 90% beans and 10% sadness. The chef must be getting a commission from bean farmers. And a tuna salad sandwich. I'm pretty sure the tuna just waved at the mayonnaise from across the room. It's so dry, I think I'm developing sand dunes on my tongue. The very next day, the entire cafeteria menu was revamped. The chili was rich and meaty, the tuna salad was creamy, and they had even added a gourmet sandwich bar. The whole company celebrated, praising Ava's benevolent leadership. Only I suspected there was more to the story. Another time, I saw a stray cat huddled by the office entrance and felt a pang of sympathy. Look at that little orange guy. He's got potential. A little scruffy now, but he could be a majestic fluffball. It's a shame he has to live out here. If I were rich, I'd build a little shelter for all the strays around here. A few days later, a beautifully crafted, heated cat shelter appeared near the entrance, complete with plush beds and food bowls. Inside, I saw the same orange cat, now clean and blissfully needing a blanket. An HR memo went out, announcing a new corporate compassion initiative to boost employee morale. I stared at the cat living its best life and fell into a deep, troubled thought. Once is a coincidence, twice is strange, but this many times, something was very wrong. I started to wonder if Ava had bugged my cubicle. It was a crazy thought, and I dismissed it until the company team-building retreat. We went hiking. As a certified couch potato, I was, of course, the last one up the trail. Halfway up the mountain, I was gasping for air, my legs burning. I'm done. I'm a pathetic excuse for a human. Why did I agree to this? My couch is so warm and non-judgmental. I just want to curl up into a ball and roll back down the mountain. I collapsed onto a large rock, feeling utterly defeated, when a bottle of water appeared in front of my face. I looked up. It was Ava. She was in workout gear, with a light sheen of sweat on her forehead, but her breathing was perfectly even. "Drink this," she said. Flustered, I took the bottle. "Thanks, Ms. Sterling." She sat down next to me, looking out at the view without speaking. The silence was awkward. I searched for something to say. "You're in great shape, Ms. Sterling. Unlike me, I have the cardiovascular system of a sea sponge. The gap between us is wider than the Grand Canyon." Ava suddenly spoke. "You build up stamina if you're consistent. It just takes time." She paused. "And you shouldn't put yourself down. You're not pathetic." My blood ran cold. That line, why did it sound so familiar? It was almost exactly what I had just thought. As a test, I thought very clearly in my head. The weather is perfect today. Not a cloud in the sky. Ava glanced up at the sky. "Yes, the weather is nice," she said casually. Every hair on my body stood on end. I tried again, thinking I could really go for some ice cream right now. Chocolate fudge brownie. Ava was silent for a few seconds. Then she pulled out her phone and typed a quick message to someone. A moment later, she stood up. "Let's head down." Confused, I followed her down the mountain. When we reached the base camp, her assistant, Kevin, came jogging over, breathing heavily, and handed her a small paper bag. "Here you go, Ms. Sterling." Ava took the bag, reached inside, and pulled something out. She handed it to me. It was a pint of ice cream. Chocolate fudge brownie. I stared at the ice cream in my hand, then at Ava's unreadable face, and a single, earth-shattering, completely insane thought exploded in my mind. She could hear my thoughts. The realization blanked out my brain. I stood frozen, the ice cream starting to melt and drip on my hand. Ava looked at me, her expression a mixture of resignation and a smile she could no longer hide. "Took you long enough," she said. "You're a little slow on the uptake, aren't you?" My entire worldview crumbled. I was bundled into Ava's car like a mannequin, unable to speak on the ride back. My mind was racing, replaying every interaction we'd ever had. Her suppressed laugh in the conference room. Her saving me from Mark. Her putting me in charge of a massive project. The cafeteria food, the cat shelter, and now, the chocolate fudge brownie ice cream. Every single thing that didn't make sense was suddenly, horrifyingly, perfectly logical. Oh God. For months, I had been performing a non-stop and censored one-man show in my head for an audience of one, a mind reader. I complained about her outfits, calling her a walking refrigerator. I'd criticized her business decisions, calling her ruthless. I'd even cast her in several ridiculous, cliché romance plots in my head where the powerful CEO falls for the quirky, lovable subordinate. My face went hot, turning the color of a boiled lobster. I wanted the earth to open up and swallow me whole. I'm so fired. This is it. She thinks I'm a complete psycho. My career is over. She's either going to fire me, get a restraining order, or have me committed. As if on cue, Ava spoke from the driver's seat. I'm not going to fire you, and I'm not going to have you committed. Her voice was calm, betraying no emotion. I whipped my head around to stare at her, my eyes wide with terror. She was watching the road, but I could feel her awareness on me. So, you can really hear it? I asked, the words feeling thick in my mouth. She nodded once. Since when? The day you were hired. I sucked in a sharp breath. The day I was hired, I'd share an elevator with her. My internal thought at the time had been, wow, total knockout. Too bad she's got that Ice Queen vibe, or I'd ask her out in a heartbeat. She'd be an amazing girlfriend. The heat in my face intensified, spreading to my ears. The corner of Ava's mouth twitched violently. She turned her head to look out the passenger side window, her shoulders beginning to shake again. I wished for a swift and painless death. The car filled with a silence, so heavy it felt like a physical object. After a minute, she seemed to compose herself and turned back. Jack! Yes, I yelped, sitting bolt upright like a soldier at attention. What? What exactly, she began, choosing her words carefully, goes on in that head of yours all day? What goes on in my head? You've had a front row seat, lady. Why are you asking? Is this some kind of public shaming? I was on the verge of tears. Seeing my tortured expression, Ava finally lost her battle for composure. A laugh escaped her lips, a genuine, unrestrained laugh. It was the first time I'd ever truly seen it. The sound transformed her, melting the icy exterior and revealing something warm and vibrant underneath. It was like watching a black and white movie suddenly burst into color. I stared, momentarily captivated. You, she said, still laughing, are really something else. I had no idea if that was a compliment or an insult. I just managed a weak, awkward smile. Ms. Sterling, so, could you maybe pretend you can't hear it from now on? I pleaded, clinging to one last shred of hope. Why? She raised an eyebrow. I find it entertaining. It's like having a free, running commentary track for my life. Entertaining? My existential dread is your entertainment? What about my privacy? I can't control it, Ava said with a shrug, looking almost apologetic. When you're nearby, your thoughts are just there, like background music. I slumped in my seat, utterly defeated. My life, as I knew it, was over. From now on, in front of her, I was a man with no secrets. After the secret was out, my relationship with Ava became profoundly weird. When I went to her office for meetings, I chose my words with the care of a bomb disposal expert, terrified my inner monologue would betray me with some new insanity. But the more I tried to control it, the wilder my thoughts became. So for option A, I believe the primary advantage is, oh God, I'm so nervous. She probably thinks I'm an idiot. Is my hair sticking up? Can she see the pores on my nose from there? Why do I even have pores? This is a design flaw. Ava sat across from me, looking down at the document, but the subtle twitching of her eyebrows gave her away. Whereas the benefit of option B lies in its scalability. That's a really nice blazer. Makes her waist look tiny, but those heels look like torture devices. How does she walk in those? I wonder how many pairs of shoes she owns. Could she build a rainbow out of them? Ahem. Ava cleared her throat loudly, jolting me back to reality. She shot me a glare that clearly said, focus. I scrambled to get my train of thought back on track, but my inner drama queen had already taken center stage. She glared at me. She totally glared at me. Is she into me? According to all the romance novels, This is classic behavior for a Sundra CEO. She's definitely in love with me, but is too proud to admit it. That has to be it. Ava's face, with impressive speed, turned a bright shade of pink. She snatched her water bottle, took a long gulp, and then swiveled her chair to face the window. Watching her reaction, a bold idea began to form in my mind. I cleared my throat, and in my head, with the most dramatic, smoldering voice I could muster, I thought, Ava, my queen, allow me, your most devoted knight, to pledge my undying loyalty to you. Clatter! Ava's water bottle slipped from her grasp and landed softly on the plush carpet. She shot to her feet, cheeks flushed, eyes wide with panic. She pointed a trembling finger at me, speechless for a moment. You, get out. I was unceremoniously ejected from her office. Standing in the hallway, I stroked my chin and smiled. This was a very, very interesting discovery. So, the great and powerful Ava Sterling could get flustered. I think. I just found her weakness. And so began my master plan of reverse psychological warfare. Every day in her office, I would maintain a professional exterior while my mind became a nonstop broadcast of the world's cheesiest pickup lines. Ava, do you know what my shirt is made of? Boyfriend material. Ava, who was in the middle of signing a contract, dragged a long ink line across the page. Ava, you must be a parking ticket because you've got fine written all over you. Ava, who was on a conference call, suddenly blurted out to the person on the other end. You got fine written all over you. There was a 10-second stunned silence from the speakerphone. Ava, I'm not a photographer, but I can picture us together. Ava, who was leading a video meeting with the board, stared blankly at the screen and said, I can picture us all together. The virtual room went dead silent. After a few days of this, the look Ava gave me had evolved from annoyed embarrassment to pure, soul-crushing despair. She even issued a formal decree. During work-related discussions, all non-work-related internal activity was strictly forbidden. As if I could control it. My brain was a fire hose of nonsense, and she was standing right in front of it. One afternoon, I brought her the revised project plan. She was frowning at a financial report, her brow furrowed with worry. Looks like money troubles. She seems so stressed. It's kind of sad. If I had $1 billion, I'd just dump it on her desk and say, stop working so hard, you big dummy. I'll take care of you. Ava's frown suddenly vanished. She looked up at me, a strange warmth in her eyes. Just leave the plan here. I'll look at it later, she said. I nodded and turned to leave. Wait, she called out. She opened a desk drawer, pulled out a small, elegant box, and handed it to me. What's this? I asked. Open it. Inside was a tube of expensive-looking hand cream. My hands aren't dry. Why are you giving me this? I asked, confused. I know this brand. It costs a fortune. Is this a bribe to get me to stop with the mental pickup lines? Ava looked at me, her voice soft. Your hands weren't made for grinding. I froze. I'd heard that line before. Oh, right. It was from one of my internal monologues yesterday. I've been complaining about feeling like a cog in the machine, just another corporate drone grinding away my life. I'd thought if someone ever told me my hands weren't made for grinding, I'd probably cry. And now she had said it, out loud. Something in my chest gave a gentle squeeze. It felt warm and soft. I looked at her, and she looked back at me. The office was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. She's actually really sweet, isn't she? A tiny, beautiful smile touched Ava's lips. Took you long enough, she said. There was that line again. But this time, it didn't feel embarrassing. It felt nice. The West Loop project, fueled by my genius and Ava's unconditional support, was a massive success. The repositioned retail center was a huge hit with local families, and revenue was soaring. At the celebration dinner, I was the man of the hour. Colleagues kept coming over to raise a glass and slap me on the back. Even Mark sidled up, his face plastered with a sycophantic grin. Jack, or should I say, Director Porter, I always knew you were destined for great things. I looked at his phony smile and felt a wave of nausea. When you were using me as your personal pack mule, you didn't seem to think I was destined for anything but carpal tunnel. Now that I'm successful, you're my biggest fan. You change direction faster than a weather vane in a hurricane. I raised my glass, my own smile just as fake. Thanks, Mark. I couldn't have done it without the support of my team and leadership. especially your support, which taught me the invaluable corporate skills of scapegoating and passive aggression. I worked the room, my facial muscles aching from the forced smiling. My gaze drifted to the head table where Ava was sitting. She was holding a glass of red wine, a silent, elegant island in a sea of noise. She must have felt my eyes on her, because she looked over and gave me a subtle lift of her glass. A warmth spread through my chest. She's the only real one here. She's heard every stupid, petty, ridiculous thought I've ever had, and she's never held it against me. She just watches my one-man show, and every once in a while, she plays along. I made an excuse and slipped out of the banquet hall onto a quiet balcony. The cool night air was a relief. A moment later, I heard the click of heels behind me. It was Ava. "Hiding out here all by yourself?" she asked. "It was getting a little stuffy in there," I said. We stood in comfortable silence for a moment, looking out at the city lights. "Jack," she said suddenly. "Yeah. Thank you." I was taken aback. "For what?" "Thank you," she said, turning to look me in the eyes, "for making my world a little less boring." Before me, her world was probably a monochrome landscape of spreadsheets, reports, and endless meetings. My arrival had been like an out-of-control paint can, splashing chaotic, vibrant, and often nonsensical colors all over her black and white existence. Actually, I scratched the back of my neck, feeling a little embarrassed. "I should be thanking you." "For what?" For being willing to listen to my running commentary, and not even charging me for it." Ava laughed, a soft, lovely sound. She leaned against the railing. "You know, most of your ideas are completely absurd. But sometimes, you make a good point." "Like what?" "Like when you said that life shouldn't just be about work, that you have to actually live it." My heart skipped a beat. I remembered thinking that when I first started, watching her work like a machine day in and day out. After that, she continued, I started trying to leave the office on time. I went to an art exhibit on a Saturday. I even got a cat. I remembered the beautiful ragdoll cat I'd seen napping in a sunbeam in her office. So I wasn't just changing her mood. I was, in some small way, changing her life. And she was changing mine. She gave me a chance, turning me from a guy who just wanted to slack off into someone who could actually lead. She put up with all my insanity and even joined in. We were like two gears, one cold and precise on the outside, the other chaotic and ridiculous on the inside, that had, by some strange twist of fate, clicked perfectly into place. After the party, Ava said she'd had too much wine to drive and asked if I could take her home. It was my first time seeing her place. It was a sprawling penthouse apartment in a downtown high-rise, decorated in the same cool, minimalist style she embodied. But small details hinted at a softer side. A plush, cat paw-shaped pillow was tossed on the sofa. A graphic novel lay open on the coffee table. A gorgeous ragdoll cat trotted out from the bedroom and rubbed against Ava's leg. Wow, so this is how the other half lives. I'm officially jealous. This cat has a better life than I do. Ava bent down to scoop up the cat. Make yourself at home. I'm just going to change. I sat stiffly on the edge of the sofa. The cat hopped onto my lap and regarded me with curious blue eyes. I tentatively stroked its silky fur. You know, little guy, your owner is a mind-reading witch, right? You better watch what you're thinking about her. The cat purred and curled up on my lap. Ava emerged from her bedroom wearing a set of silk pajamas. She was less of the formidable CEO and more of a soft, beautiful woman. She handed me a glass of water. He seems to like you, she said, nodding at the cat. Maybe I just have a trustworthy face, I joked. It's because he can't hear me thinking about how I want to cuddle him until all his fur comes off. He'd be out of here in a second. Ava's mouth twitched. She sat in the armchair opposite me. The quiet returned. Jack, she said, her voice hesitant. Can I ask you something? Shoot. Those cliché romance plots you think about. The ones with the powerful CEO. Where do you get that stuff from? My face caught fire for what felt like the 100th time. Here it is. Judgment Day has arrived. Oh, you know, just stuff you see online. I mumbled. Can I tell her I have a hard drive with 300 gigabytes of cheesy romance novels? Can I tell her they're my guilty pleasure? Absolutely not. I will take this secret to my grave. Ava's expression was an incredible mix of amusement and disbelief. So, do you think, she cleared her throat, looking almost nervous, that I fit your image of a powerful CEO from those stories? I looked at her. In the soft light of the lamp, Her cheeks were slightly flushed, her eyes filled with a hopeful, vulnerable light. My heart did a little flip. I realized this wasn't a boss asking an employee a question. This was a woman asking a man for his approval. I took a deep breath and decided to tell the truth. The real truth, not the one in my head. No, I said. The light in Ava's eyes dimmed instantly. She looks disappointed. Did she want me to say yes? Seeing her crestfallen face, I hurried to explain. The CEOs in those stories are all jerks. They say stupid things like, "Woman, you've captured my attention," and they throw money at every problem. They're arrogant and toxic. I held her gaze, my voice earnest. You're not like them. You act cold, but you're actually one of the kindest people I know. You overhaul the cafeteria menu because of one stupid thought I had. You built a cat shelter because I felt sorry for a stray. You stood up for me when I was too scared to stand up for myself. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You're a million times better than any of them. When I finished, the room was silent. Ava just stared at me, her eyes glistening, and then it hit me. I think I just confessed my feelings? Oh, crap. What'd I just do? I let my mouth run wild. This is a moment. I should probably do something, right? Should I kiss her? What if she slaps me? This could go very wrong. My internal debate raged. Across from me, hearing every word of it, Ava's face turned a deep, beautiful crimson. She looked at me, bit her lip, and then, very slowly, closed her eyes. Wait, what does that mean? Is that permission? My brain shut down, and my body took over. I leaned forward and kissed her. My boss, Ava Sterling, and I were dating. The thought was 100 times more surreal than being put in charge of the West Loop project. The next morning at work, the world looked different. The sun seemed brighter, the air cleaner. Even Mark's smarmy face seemed slightly less punchable. I walked into Ava's office. She was sitting at her desk. When she saw me, her eyes darted away for a second, the tips of her ears turning pink. Huh, look at her, all shy. She wasn't so shy last night. Ava's head snapped up, and she shot me a glare, but it lacked its usual Arctic chill. It was more like a playful swat. I placed a bag with breakfast on her desk. Eat it while it's hot. Thanks, she mumbled, looking down. I stood beside her, just watching her. She's so beautiful. I could look at her all day. I get to see this every day now. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. Ava's blush deepened. She picked up a breakfast burrito and took a big bite, forgetting it was fresh off the grill. Ouch, she hissed, dropping it. I quickly handed her a bottle of water. Easy there. No one's going to steal it. I looked at her lips, red from the heat, and felt a jolt of affection. I really want to kiss her again. Ava, who had just taken a sip of water, nearly choked. She dissolved into a coughing fit, her face as red as a tomato. Jack, she gasped, half in anger, half in embarrassment. I chuckled, patting her on the back. I'm right here. At that exact moment, there was a knock on the door. It was her assistant, Kevin. Ms. Sterling, the 9 o'clock meeting. He pushed the door open and froze, his brain visibly malfunctioning. The scene in front of him, me affectionately patting the back of our legendary Ice Queen CEO, who was bright red and leaning into my arms. Kevin's jaw dropped. I gave him a slow, deliberate wink. He snapped out of his trance, spun around, and backed out of the room. Didn't see a thing. Carry on. The door clicked shut. Ava buried her face in my chest, mortified. I held her, shaking with laughter. Well, that's it. The whole company is going to know by lunch. Ava pinched my side. That's not going to stop them. But for the record, I liked it. The pinch got harder. Our relationship became the company's worst-kept secret in record time. The way people looked at me shifted from envy to something bordering on awe. They probably saw me as the brave knight who had tamed the dragon. Only I knew that this particular dragon was, on the inside, incredibly warm and gentle. Our dynamic entered a new phase. Her mind-reading ability was no longer a source of anxiety, but a private, bizarre form of intimacy. During a tense client meeting, I'd be nodding seriously while my inner voice went off. This client wants what? A logo that's both minimalist and Baroque. What's next? A car that's also a boat and a toaster. Does he think we're wizards? Across the table, Ava would press her lips together to keep from smiling and gently kick my foot under the table, a silent plea for me to behave. After work, she'd surprise me by taking me to the Nashville hot chicken place I'd been mentally craving all afternoon. We started acting like a normal couple. We saw movies, we browsed bookstores, we took long walks after dark. One night, we were watching a romance film. During a scene where the main couple kissed passionately in a downpour, I had a thought. Man, that's so dramatic and romantic. I wish I could have a big, cinematic kiss in the rain with Ava. When we left the theater, it was raining. Instead of heading for the parking garage, Ava grabbed my hand and pulled me out onto the street. She didn't have an umbrella. The rain quickly soaked her hair and clothes, but she didn't seem to care. She stood in the middle of the sidewalk, her eyes sparkling under the streetlights. Jack, yeah, didn't you want to kiss in the rain? She stood on her toes and kissed me. In that moment, the sounds of the city faded away. The world narrowed to just the two of us and the cool, sweet taste of rain on her lips. I finally understood. She wasn't just playing along with my internal script. She was loving me, in her own unique, clumsy, and breathtakingly sincere way. 1 year later, it was the celebration dinner for the second phase of the West Loop project. As the director of special projects, I stood on the stage, feeling confident and proud. Ava sat in the front row, watching me with a soft, loving smile. I had grown so much in a year. I was no longer the guy trying to disappear into his cubicle, but a man who could stand beside her as an equal. And she had changed, too. She smiled more now, real, genuine smiles that reached her eyes. The office rumor was that the CEO had finally developed a soul. I knew the truth. She had just found someone to share it with. After the party, we walked home hand in hand. Jack, what are you thinking about right now? She asked, a curious lilt in her voice. I smiled and thought, very slowly and very clearly, I'm thinking about when we're going to get married. Ava stopped dead in her tracks. She turned to face me, her eyes wide with disbelief. Under the warm glow of the streetlight, her eyes shone brighter than any star. I didn't give her a chance to process. I dropped to one knee and pulled the ring I'd been carrying for a month from my pocket. Ava Sterling, I said, my voice clear and steady, speaking the words aloud for the whole world to hear. Will you do me the honor of listening to my ridiculous inner monologue for the rest of your life? A few passers-by stopped, cheering us on. Ava stared at me, stunned. Then she laughed. She laughed so hard that tears started streaming down her face. She didn't say a word. She just held out her hand. As I slid the ring on her finger, I thought, I love you. She looked right at me and mouthed the words, no sound needed. I know. Epilogue 1 lazy Sunday. I was stretched out on the couch, with Ava using my lap as a pillow while she read a book. It was perfect. A random thought popped into my head. You know, Ava can read my mind, but can she read anyone else's? Like, could she hear what Mark is thinking? I felt the head on my lap go completely still. The page turning stopped. A sense of dread trickled down my spine. Wait, she can't. Can she? If she could read everyone's mind, she'd know all the company's secrets. That's not just a superpower, that's a corporate God mode cheat code. Ava slowly lifted her head, her expression unreadable. Jack! Yeah. Actually, I can only hear you. I breathed a sigh of relief. Oh, thank God. That would be too weird. But still, why only me? Am I special? The chosen one? The one in a billion whose brain frequency is just right? Ava looked at me, her expression shifting from unreadable to guilty. She was quiet for a long time. Then, in a voice barely louder than a whisper, she said, It's because the first time we met in the elevator, that little device I was holding, it was a prototype for a unidirectional empathy bridge, and it malfunctioned and, accidentally, permanently bonded to you. I stared at her. I stared at her face, which was a perfect portrait of, I'm sorry, but I'm also never going to admit I was wrong. My brain blue-screened for 3 full seconds. So this entire, life-changing, magical, unbelievable journey wasn't destiny. It wasn't a miracle. It was a goddamn tech support issue. Ava Sterling, you have some explaining to do. Hearing my internal roar, Ava shot up from the couch, grabbed a pillow, and sprinted for the bedroom. I don't know what you're talking about. Good night. Slam. The bedroom door clicked shut. I stared at the closed door, a feeling of helpless laughter bubbling up inside me. My powerful, mind-reading CEO wife, it turned out, still had a few secrets up her sleeve. End.